from a life's disaster. Imagine hanging out with the wrong people when you know you shouldn't be out late at night and something goes down that wasn't your doing, but now you're responsible. Now life is flipped upside down and you're caged like a dog, actually worse than a dog. Now, this situation doesn't happen to everyone in jail or prison, but for some people, it does. Hi, my name is Camille, and today I'd like to persuade you into joining me in fighting the injustice of America's justice system through prison reform. So, how am I connected to the prison system? Well, I'm not. Actually, I don't even know anyone who's ever been in jail. But that doesn't change my views or empathy for people who are serving time and not receiving the minimum basic needs. Prison reform is an attempt to improve conditions inside prisons and jails and improve the effectiveness of the penal system or implement alternatives to incarceration, also focusing on ensuring reinstatement of those whose lives are affected by crime. I'm going to explain the problems of our prison system, talk about the conditions of jails and prisons, decriminalization of the mentally ill, and what we can do about it. First, let's talk about the conditions of confinement. Despite political rhetoric comparing prisons to hotels or resorts, the reality is most prisons are overcrowded, often dangerous, provide substandard medical care, and do minimal to nothing to prepare inmates for the free world. The United States holds less than 5% of the whole world's population, but 25% of the world's prisoners. Less than 5% of the world's population, but 25% of the prisoners? That's insane. Why are there so many people incarcerated in the United States? People may think because these people are criminals, the living conditions don't matter. However, they're still human, and not all of them are violent offenders. Some haven't even been convicted of their crime yet and are awaiting trial, and others are put there due to racial bias. America's prison systems are inhumane, ineffective, and overall flawed. Corruption and abuse of power among correction staff runs rampant because prison officials are not held accountable for failing to protect incarcerated people. Private correction facilities are heavily invested financially and make around $4 billion a year, according to the Equal Justice Initiatives. Private prisons are making money off of people. They give people jobs when they're in jail. So let's say someone's stamping out license plates, or let's say I know that they make prescription glasses for Medi-Cal from prisons. So they might charge $100 for a pair of glasses, but the inmate only makes a couple dollars. So all the profit is being made by they're giving people jobs, acting like they're making money, and they're taking all of the profit. Besides the fact that they get money, tax dollars, to house these people, to medicate these people, to clothe these people. It's a business. Prison officials often fail to provide proper treatment for people who have their behavior is difficult to manage, resorting to physical force and solitary confinement, which can aggravate mental illness. More than 60,000 people in the United States are held in solitary confinement right now, isolated in a small cell for 23 hours a day. Studies show people held in long-term isolation suffer from anxiety, paranoia, and deep depression. You can only be held in a box for so long without going nuts. Suicide among people in isolation account for 50% of prison deaths. Now that I've explained these conditions of prisons in America, let me tell you about the problem of criminalizing the mentally ill. 16% of prison population are severely mentally ill, not just having a bad day, but severe schizophrenic, depression, bipolar. 16% of the population. In 1983, it was only 6.4%, according to the New York Times. Correctional institutions have replaced mental hospitals all over the United States and are now the largest housing for the mentally ill community. Instead of putting these people in mental institutions, they're putting them in jail because they have nowhere else to go. The majority of arrests for the mentally ill are nonviolent crimes because they may be acting out is because they're mentally not stable. The majority of arrests for the mentally ill um, is often the change of meds, and isolation only exacerbates the illness, along with untrained staff, limited medical care, and access to the correct medications. Now that I've told you about the problems of having the mentally ill housed with criminals, let me tell you about what we can do to accomplish prison reform. We can help in mass incarceration by letting your representatives know that you stand for responsible criminal justice policies. The point is not to stop putting people in jail. Of course, that's how we keep the streets safe, but we have to be responsible. There has to be laws. There has to be a different way because what's going on right now is not working. Most importantly, we need to vote and we need to educate others on how to vote for ballot measures for change in the criminal justice system. Voting is power, and a lot of the youth do not take the opportunity to use our power because we're afraid that it doesn't make change, but it will make change if there's enough of us that are doing it together. Donate to programs that help exonerate wrongly convicted individuals. This is a whole nother subject that we could talk about for hours. There are so many people that are in jail that now that DNA and now that if someone was willing to come forward, there's so many different types of situations where people are innocently put in jail. That's a whole nother, like I could talk about that for a whole nother 20 minutes, but there's programs where attorneys are willing to give their time and their effort and their pay to help these innocent people so that they can get out of jail. It's never too late, you know. Currently, 60,000 citizens cannot vote because their prior felony charges. There's people who made mistakes as a youth and maybe they messed up. Maybe they got caught with a gun when they were 18. Now they're in their 50s and still can't vote for change. The California Reentry Program aims to support incarcerated people at San Quentin Prison. Um, this program, it gives education and resources before being released, and then they continue the support even after they're being integrated back into the real world. 50% of inmates arrive in prison